Season 3 of The Pass is here. I know it's long overdue. We have a new intro. We still got the same content. Well, actually, it's a little bit of new content because there's new things going on in 2019. So buckle up. We got a lot of things to talk about on The Pass. What is up? What's going on, y'all? This is episode 232 of The Pass. I'm your host, BT. I really am glad to do yet another show. I'm not going to front with y'all. There has been a lot of information and a lot of things that have happened within the past couple of days. So I don't want to prolong too much. I almost left the story off, but luckily I was able to find it. Before I do stories, I always have it listed and I always present it unintentionally, but if you do or are able to, please check the links that are in the show notes. Those are not really direct sponsors of my podcast, but just other podcasters, other brands, other businesses that I support. And if you may find one of them to be resourceful, by all means, utilize them accordingly. But I want to make sure that I give that nod because a lot of times I just talk about sports and just run into whatever's been going on. So I didn't want to leave that behind. So the first story up is one that it hit yesterday, and I realized that it hit, but I didn't give it any attention in its moment. But now that I'm looking at, okay, I need to do the show, it popped up on my mind, and I was like, I think this might be worthwhile content because it is, in the eyes of the football fan, a big deal. And I will forewarn you, this week's podcast will be more football related, even with there somewhat being an off season, but I'll get into that a little bit later. There is a little bit of activity going on that I'll talk about later. But first things first, Joe Flacco will no longer be with the Baltimore Ravens. He will be signing to the Denver Broncos as part of a trade. It cannot be made official as of yet because they have to wait for the official trade point to begin, which is in March. But he will be going to Denver. There was really not a clear cut as to who will be part of the deal, but it was stated that there will be one of either the 2 fourth-round picks that the Broncos have that would go to the Ravens for this deal. I have an article that kind of gives an overall storyline about this. We're gonna kind of go back in time a little bit and not really go too far back, but just go back to this previous season. If you look, and I guess I'm saying you can go back to this season, but we're going to go back a little bit, go back a couple years before that. There was one point when Joe Flacco was the man. He was the guy. He was that dude. And he played like he was that guy. He was that dude. And for the most part, after winning the Super Bowl, it's not really the Super Bowl hangover. It's more so, can your team stay on a winning, consistent trend after the Super Bowl? Baltimore thought it was in their best interest at the time. They felt, well, hey, this is our guy. We're invested in him. We'll go ahead and give him a nice contract, which they did. And after that, the couple years afterward, he really wasn't producing to the standards of the contract. And it happens. It's football. As I'm well known for saying, football is still a business. And this past season, which I was initially looking to rewind to, is where that was confirmed. The Ravens made a trade for their draft pick to move up in the draft in sense and to go ahead and get, I believe they moved up or moved back, one of the two. But they were able to get Lamar Jackson from Louisville. Now, I believe I talked about it last year on the show, but I'll bring it up now. No one really had a lot of investment or a lot of belief or faith or trust in Lamar Jackson as a quarterback. In some eyes, that would make sense, but in some senses, it didn't. And the reason I give the half and half for that is because could he play? Absolutely. Did he fit the mold of your typical quarterback? Not really. And it's not even that he was going to come in and be expected to be the flashy quarterback, but he came in and did what you're expected to do. He stepped in, they won. Flacco was out with an injury. There wasn't a certainty of who the quarterback would be starting off. They were 5-1 under him, with him at quarterback, or under center, as they call it. And it looked like that was where the way it was going. So that, of course, left the question of what was going to happen with Joe Flacco. And here we are. I did look at ESPN for a brief stint, and I got to admit, it hadn't even been 10 seconds into the discussion. There's more, I almost want to say negative feedback or more battled thoughts than positive energy of him coming into this role. What's tough about it in the NFL, a lot of players, a lot of fans or analysts sometimes fail to realize is the first year you're not going to get it right. It rarely occurs that way. A lot of quarterbacks who come in the NFL end up getting put on clipboard duty, and they just kind of do their best to carry a clipboard and be, kind of the play caller to send plays into the quarterback occasionally. So this occurrence of this transaction wouldn't really be your surprise if you really were looking at what has occurred or transpired in the NFL or in NFL history. I think the Broncos are getting a good pickup. It comes down to who they put around him, of course. In Baltimore, he didn't have the greatest of weapons, but he may do. And I feel bad for saying this, but this is kind of the league we're in. He's no Tom Brady. He's no Peyton Manning. He's Joe Flacco. Coming from a small school, Delaware, he did good, but it's, always, what does it translate to in the NFL? Are you winning? Are you able to get this team over the hump? If they can get out of their division, then that's a small achievement or a task within itself. So we'll see. They, of course, like I said, they have to wait until the official trade date for that move to occur. But in principle, that trade will be happening. Antonio Brown went through a bit of a legal piece, and I'm not sure if they're going to talk about. Yeah, they don't talk about it in this specific article, but they did point out, indeed, that he wants to be traded. Antonio Brown wants to lead the Steelers. This has been evident since, I would almost say, following the Super Bowl, because the Steelers didn't have the greatest season this year. They were kind of like a high favorite to give New England fits when it came to the playoffs, but obviously it wasn't really in there. They didn't. I don't. If I'm remembering correctly, I don't believe they made the playoffs. So it caused a lot of questions and concern, and there was already stories looming of what was going to happen with Le'Veon Bell. You don't want to forecast this early, but this is kind of almost like the breakup of the Steelers. I mean, here it is. You had Antonio Brown, who's been one of the top wideouts for a couple of years. Le'Veon Bell, who's been one of the top running backs for quite a few years. And Ben Roethlisberger, who has a couple years remaining. But as we all know, it's a matter of what the status is or what the plans are with Father Time. There's been, rumors have swirled regarding this, but there's nothing I'm going to give major attention to for the sake of the podcast. I just wanted to give this story its attention because he is indeed looking to get traded. So he's made that publicly and privately clear that he's ready to leave Pittsburgh. So it's a matter of what type of deal can be put in place to get him to where he wants to go, or what can benefit him to possibly win. As a Panthers fan, I'm glad for this story, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm glad. I mean, anytime we can re-sign a player, it's always a big deal. But Eric Reid was able to sign a 3-year deal with the Carolina Panthers. This is to be key and vital to the upcoming collusion, or still the possible collusion grievance that's going on with the NFL. As many of you may or may not be aware, and I've talked about it a couple times on the show, the NFL Players Association filed a collusion grievance against the NFL on Reid's behalf back in May, when he was not signed after the 49ers opted to let the first round let him go as an unrestricted free agent. This grievance is still ongoing. Alleged team owners in the league, influenced by President Donald Trump, colluded to prevent Reid's employment because of his protests against social injustice. In 2016, he became the first player to join Kaepernick in kneeling during the national anthem, as we all were aware. He brought this quote to light. He said, "If anything, it proves my point from last year. I didn't sign until a few weeks into the regular season. This year, I signed a more substantial contract over the same time period. I'm the same player." He's been transparent and looking at it as he doesn't hold out much hope that Kaepernick would be signed. Knowing what I know now, my hope tank is on E. This is a leverage game, so we'll see what happens moving forward. They did point out that he was one of many celebrities who boycotted the Super Bowl in Atlanta to show support for Kaepernick, and others who were protesting police brutality and racial injustice. And I shared this, and I realized it when I did the show, but then I looked at it in hindsight. I left off the story, but I did bring up the Super Bowl. I have my stance, as far as police brutality, I'm not a fan of it at all. I feel like it's something that should be acknowledged and, not brushed off to the side. I know for me, it's not that I'm just doing it just to keep my podcast going, but it's because it's the content of the show is I'm going to watch what's available based on having stories for the show. So I watched the game, but I really wasn't watching it to that extreme. I mean, the ratings, I think people fail to realize there are people who are going to watch football regardless, or there are people going to watch sports regardless. If we didn't watch or do things because of what occurred, we would never do anything. If Nike right now did this huge chaotic spin, I mean, they did it. It already went down with the whole, with Kaepernick, with him, going through all that he went through. And everyone was, walking around saying, I think it was when Kaepernick was picked up for Nike, people were talking about they were going to burn all their Nike apparel. And I'm like, these are the same people that probably burn LeBron jerseys, but that's neither here nor there. But this story, going back to Eric Reid, he did sign a new contract. It's helping and giving leverage to the case, which I think is important. There hasn't really been a big amount of attention behind what happened. Or what's going on with the collusion grievance, but it is still active. So that's kind of the ins and outs of the best piece of information we have regarding that. Next up, Kareem Hunt, as many of you know, was involved with, he was recently released from the Kansas City Chiefs, which surprised a lot of teams or surprised a lot of fans, but the NFL is, sticking strong to their rule. And looks like the Cleveland Browns are giving him a chance. Now, before I get into even saying this, and this is probably night and day, I don't feel like this is going to be a Josh Gordon situation where he gets to Cleveland and then we really don't hear from him or he doesn't play that well. I feel like this is a chance for him to kind of get his season in gear. Coming off their best season since way back in 2007, it's not a secret that the Browns are looking to add even more talent to their young roster. They did that back on Monday when they signed Kareem Hunt months after he was released by the Chiefs. Hunt has proven himself to be among the most talented running backs in the game. He was a former third-round pick who had recorded a league-high 1,327 yards and had nearly 4.9 yards per attempt. It was a downright amazing performance from a guy who was the sixth running back off the board in the 2017 NFL Draft after flying under the radar during a stellar career at Toledo. However, or unfortunately, Hunt's career with the Chiefs came to an end 11 games into the 2018 season after video surfaced of him allegedly kicking a woman in a hotel last February. The video was obtained by TMZ in November and released shortly thereafter. He didn't play another snap for the Chiefs after the video became public. He was initially sent home by the team only to be released merely hours after the video released. The Chiefs say Hunt lied about the incident in question. There were no charges that were filed from the incident, but it brought back memories of Ray Rice from a few years back. The Chiefs knew how the optics would look if they were to hang on to Hunt, and on the field, the decision to release him could have cost Kansas City a Super Bowl. Now, months later, he's earned a second chance with the Browns, and it's another opportunity. And they give a little bit more information regarding him coming to the team. It's a good move. It's a good chance, and I think if anything, he's learned from what happened, and he's not letting what previously happened to him be his future. He, as humans, we sometimes fail to realize we make mistakes. We do dumb things, and sometimes dumb things could be that one thing that teaches us, like, hey, I need to figure out and get things back on track. And this could be that dumb thing that gets him back on track. So I'm just saying it as for his benefit and for his sake. This could be the turning point and coming, going to the Browns. He might be on a 1-year contract, something like that. And then it could turn into, a lighter situation. There are other questions looming whether he should be given a second chance. Let's see. They give one of the league's respected executives, Dorsey, knows full well the PR hit his Browns will take by signing the Trouble Hunt, but he explained it further. We fully understand and respect the complexity of questions and issues in signing a player with Kareem's history and do not condone his actions. Given that we know about Kareem through our extensive research, we believe he deserves a second chance, but certainly with the understanding that he has to go through the critical and essential steps to becoming a performing member of this organization, aside from what the NFL determines from their ongoing investigation. The NFL investigation will likely lead to a substantial suspension for Hunt. We could be looking at a 10-game ban to start the year. There'll certainly be questions raised about whether he deserves a second chance. From an on-field perspective, he joins other talented running backs in the group. They already have Nick Chubb, who had 10 touchdowns after replacing Carlos Hyde as the team starter. Cleveland knows full well that the signing of Hunt won't pay off immediately. As noted above, he'll likely be suspended. But with the playoff expectations, the name of the game under stud young quarterback Baker Mayfield, adding someone as talented as Hunt could pay off down the road. Until then, it's important to reserve judgment. The NFL is still conducting its internal investigation of the matter. What said investigation tells us could dictate both how the Hunt signing plays out and whether he actually ever suits up for Cleveland. He could play. They may have to let this all kind of just die out and then figure out what they want to do afterward. But at least he knows, pending the investigation, he has a home in the NFL, or he has a team that he'll be able to play for. So I'm hoping he gets a chance. I hope he does his thing, but we got to keep our eye on that and see what transpires afterward. Week 1 of the AAF, or the Alliance of American Football, has occurred. And I had to make sure I got this right, because initially when I was looking for articles of information, I was looking up AAFL, but it's actually AAF. This is already, and now I'm going to give a little bit of information from this article, but I'm also going to talk about my observations and just the overall viewing. We're a year removed from the XFL coming. The XFL will be next season, and we'll say, for sake of conversation, we're a week, like the Super Bowl was last week, and this past Saturday and Sunday was week 1 of the AAF. So they were making sure that you were getting some football. Now, whether you know who's playing or who's not playing or trying to find a team and all that, they're kind of in the space of, we'll let you figure it out with time. But I think, if anything, I do like the direction that this league will be going, or this competition will bring. They removed kickoffs. If I'm remembering correctly, they removed punts. You still can score field goals, but when you only can score a field goal, like if you're in field goal range, but you don't have an option. After you score a touchdown, you have to go for a 2-point conversion. There's no, one automatic field goal or go for the, play. It's a 2. You have to make a 2-point conversion. There's more involvement with how tackles are handled, how players are, dealt with, things of that nature. Charlie Ebersol, the Alliance, and I'll try to read through this but not be too boring. Charlie Ebersol, the Alliance of American Football's CEO, promised that this new league of pro football wouldn't be all that different from what fans saw in the NFL on Sundays in the fall. There's a caveat in that statement, of course. The AAF would be exactly like the NFL in terms of the on-field product, because there is no substitute. Wouldn't be exactly like the NFL. Ebersol and co-founder Bill Polian instead stressed that their league would be what the original XFL was not: real football for football people by football people. With 1 week in the books, that description was about right. The AAF does some things differently than the NFL, some of which are very good, like replay transparency. But overall, the first 4 games felt like watching any other football game. And if you starved for more football, then this is a way to satisfy that need while the AAF does what it wants to: develop players to get back into the NFL. Maybe the number one question about the AAF as we exit the first week was whether the league will survive or join the graveyard of past short-lived pro football leagues. It's tough to say for sure right now, but the overall impression is that there's serious potential. On a team level, it's a little easier to make judgments because the results are tangible. We can see them with our own eyes. That doesn't mean these judgments will be correct in a couple weeks, but at least now there's something observable to go off. With that in mind, here are 5 takeaways from week 1 of the inaugural AAF season, plus their weekly MVP vote, which that's all extra. The first part was that Orlando was really good. Orlando played their first game against Atlanta, and the score was 40-6. Like, I was watching some of that game, and it just was one-sided from start to finish. San Diego has a good defense. The QB battle is already brewing in San Diego. Memphis is alarmingly limited offensively. They didn't score in their game. That team, I believe, is coached by Mike Singletary. And is home field advantage a huge thing? Week 1 was bad. Is home field advantage a huge thing? Week 1 was bad for road teams. Not only did all 4 lose, but every home team covered, usually convincingly. Granted, every line was within a touchdown, and odds makers are still figuring out how to play this, but this wasn't a good opening weekend for competitiveness, which is a whole other talking point in and of itself. So it looks like matchups based on who plays is going to be pretty lopsided. So it won't be as competitive as the NFL, but it's also guys that are still trying to fill out the game, fill out teammates, generate and gain chemistry, things of that sort. Their play of the week, they said, was Apollo's linebacker Terrence Garvin. There will be plenty of chances for this award. He had 10 tackles and 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 for the Apollos. I'm gonna say this, and it's not that I'm not gonna talk bad about the league, because I think the league is on the right path. It fills a void for football, And as fans, that's mainly what people want, is they want something that's going to replace what everyone is used to seeing. And so that's what we got. You can't, as the saying goes, beggars can't be choosers. So I don't have a big hoopla or a big to-do over it. I'm hoping this weekend I'll catch some games and actually see what the difference is. I mean, from what I looked at, the little bit of it that I looked at, because they even mentioned this on Saturday. Saturday, the Orlando game was on against Atlanta, and that game got more viewing or strong, like higher ratings or whatever, than the Oklahoma City Houston game. Which, I mean, that game was even bigger because you had two guys that scored, in the 40s, and it, got down to the wire as far as the matchup. But talking with the AAF side, I feel like football is football. You can't, not to be funny, you can't fuck up football. But it is doable. I'm not looking for it to be too exciting or anything ravishing. I'm also not looking for XFL status because we saw what the XFL did. We're hoping that the XFL learned from what they did wrong, and that's where this rebrand could help them. So there's that. That's kind of the overall experience from AAF. Going to college hoops, 2 games stood out, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. I've looked at the rankings in the top 25. Top 25 is to be treated lightly because the relevance of it is going to factor in, if anything, where teams are going to be placed in what brackets, first 4 in, last 4 out, last 4 in, like things like that. But right now, Tennessee's kind of running away. Everyone's waiting to see Tennessee and Kentucky play. Kentucky played against LSU, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. Duke looked pretty flawless against UVA. They had a tough match. A lot of your other teams are kind of just playing, you're not going to really hear teams make a lot of noise during season play or conference play. It's when March Madness begins. And March Madness for some teams begins when they play tournament play within their conference. Because how good you do in your own conference tournament could factor in whether you still are able to even get to the big dance. So that's one factor. And then the other factor is if you do get your conference championship, like those SWACs, MEACs, those small schools, and you get in and you play against your Dukes, your Arizonas, your power conferences, then it kind of shows, okay, this team actually looks good and they could be somebody to watch out for. VCU's been playing good basketball. I've been keeping up with them this year. They actually had a game yesterday against U of R, and U of R didn't stand a chance. They played against St. Bonaventure a couple of days ago. It looked pretty good. For me, and it's interesting when I talk about college hoops, I get notifications for my immediate notifications are for Texas, because Shaka Smart used to coach at VCU. Obviously VCU, local team. Kansas, because I like to keep gauge on Kansas as well as the Big 12, and obviously Kentucky. So those 4, I'm guaranteed to get notifications and informations about. That's what kind of circled the D'Souza or Sylvia D'Souza story into the mix. That's kind of been what's what. Like Kentucky was on a pretty good win streak for a bit, and they played against LSU. Now, first and foremost, LSU is 9-1 in conference play. Let's be sure we put that in the mix starting off. Coming into this game, both teams were 9-1 conference wise. It was in Rupp Arena. Kentucky really couldn't keep or hold the lead through the game, and it was noticeable because LSU kind of made the game their game. The game was, to kind of give you a quick rundown, and this was at the end of the game, and it's in the show notes in the link. Game was tied. LSU had the ball. Their guard drove to the basket, went for a layup. He missed the layup, but one of the teammates for another one of LSU players tipped the basket in. Game over. Time was not an issue because there was more than enough time. They brought up something that I didn't even notice until they talked about it in this article, is when the basket initially, when the first player took the layup, EJ, I think it's EJ Man. I don't know why I'm saying EJ Man, but that's his name. EJ Montgomery slightly interfered with the basket, but because the interference didn't have an impact enough to the point where the shot was altered, it was a no call. So I thought that was fine. But afterward, the tip-in happened and there was no time on the clock. So LSU won. I believe Kentucky's next. Kentucky has their next game against Tennessee. That's going to be a big game because if Kentucky can bounce back and win that game, then that won't drop them as tough as it could if they lose. Like, losing both games is going to look bad because with LSU winning, that bumps them up in rank. That could bring them up to top 15. And I mean, if you're able to get in a good top 4 seed, as well as how it can impact you in the championship, in SEC championship play, then that's when it all comes out and turns out to be a new scenario, because it's already clear and it's already evident that there's going to be a new. If Kentucky can beat Tennessee, then Kentucky will likely do fine with getting the regular season SEC championship. But if not, Tennessee will have it. If Tennessee wins, then it'll be whoever wins this game will likely get the SEC championship regular season. For the tournament, it's early. I'm thinking that it's likely going to be Kentucky because I feel like Tennessee is going to take one of their other matchups leading up to Kentucky lightly and could lose. So that's my hot take on that. Bouncing over to ACC, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. UVA is getting exposed a little bit, but it's okay. I mean, and we haven't thought about this either with ACC. Duke has yet to play their 2 matchups with UNC. We really need to remember that. Zion looked like Zion. As we continue episode 232 with a surprise feature persona guest guy in the background. He was part of Triplet Talk a while back and on episode 227. But anyway, continuing what I talked about earlier with Zion and the comeback with Louisville, they did their thing. No one expected them to really do what they did, and Zion had a pretty solid performance, 27 points, 12 boards, and they just kind of gave like a little bit of a highlight overview of his gameplay. So that was a big story, big news. I feel bad talking about this story. It could have been asked of the week, but it's pissed off of the week for me, only because being a Chelsea fan and seeing Man City beat the brakes off Chelsea 6-0 was very surprisingly not surprised, I guess I can say. The reason why is because they're anytime a team scores 4 goals in 25 minutes, that's kind of like a red flag. I'm about to pop. See, he about to get knocked in the face and don't even know it. So yeah, I'm not gonna really give a major. I mean, there were other Premier League matches. Don't get me wrong, but that match was kind of like the big story or the big match that a lot of people were talking about, especially due to the mere fact that Chelsea just got like mollywopped from the pitch. So that is all I have for sports. Going to get into stuff. Before I get too into stuff, and I'm preparing some things on my end, I do want to let you know that if you're working harder on your digital well-being or a better way of trying to manage your time, a new thing that I have been doing is using the product called Bagby. And it's basically, to some people it looks weird, but for me it's perfectly great. Basically keeping your phone in a bag separate and away from other from others, and it kind of forces you in the position of doing what we dislike doing the most, and that is communicating. Because of it, I have seen a huge decline in my phone usage, which is good. The owner is a pretty good owner. We had some discussion regarding one of the blogs that he wrote, but that's neither here nor there. But I will say, if you're looking to learn how to communicate and learn how to be a people person again, I would definitely recommend looking for Bagby, and their site is bagby.co, to try out and see what products you may find. I'm waiting within the next couple of days. I am supposed to be getting the silent alarm clock from them, which should be fun, because having digital clocks and constantly yelling at a screen or yelling at a speaker that doubles as a microphone and telling it what time it is kind of lazy and stupid. So some transition, something different, but also something original. Segueing into stuff, the first stuff story is a silly stuff story, but it's also a stuff story that may kind of not be surprising. As many people know, Instagram and Facebook are BFFs. That's promptly the reason why the algorithms for Instagram and Facebook are hot garbage. Instagram, as many people know, you never are able to look at everything in order. I feel like in probably a couple of months, if not sooner, they're going to change that idea, but that's all a matter of once Facebook really gets their hands into it, because with Facebook, you had an option of both sides. You can either get top stories or most recent. Majority of people, at least me, prefer most recent. But Instagram is testing out a new ability to allow others to send direct messages from their desktop client. So basically, if you go to Instagram.com now, you can see your notifications, you can comment, you can like other images, but as far as accessing your direct messages or DMs, not an option. Their reverse engineering expert Jane Mansion Wong was spotted with the apparent internal test of the feature, which showed up shortly after reports that Facebook intended to unify its many messaging apps. Engadget did reach out to Instagram for more information regarding web and desktop direct messaging, and they will update the story if they hear back. Currently, direct messaging is a feature that's locked into the mobile app for Android and iOS. No part of the feature, including sending a post directly to another user, is available through the site. The test feature spotted by Wong added a direct message icon to the menu bar on the web, which would enable users to view, respond, and send new DMs. First of all, they need to go ahead and just make the standalone app for Windows. I feel like it's coming. It's just a matter of slow process, because people look at Instagram and they think mobile on the go. But there are some people who, like me, aren't as mobilely connected. So I usually will pull up things right on my laptop and access them that way. So this is something that they're looking to try out. My only advice, and fellas, don't take this to heart. I know today is Valentine's Day, but I'm just going to tell it like it is. Just because you have the ability or are given the ability to send DMs through a computer does not mean that spell check still exists. Use it. Use it and use it wisely. That's my number one suggestion. There were a couple of Nintendo games that did drop, and I knew that was going to happen. So there are some, and this game, so there was Nintendo did their direct stream, and they talked about, you want to repeat it since they couldn't hear you?
Nintendo Direct.
With your phone still going off with 100 miles an hour. Nintendo Direct did their stream, which basically talked about a couple of new things coming. I don't have all of the new games. I know Mario Maker 2 is one of them. I also know that the one that stood out for me, which I'm still surprised by, but not surprised by, is called Tetris 99. We're going to kind of do like the backstory and just talk about it for what it is. You have I wouldn't say Fortnite, DayZ, PUBG, H1Z1, Fortnite. I'm trying to think of any other Call of Duty's version, Apex Legends, and now Tetris 99. All of them were battle royale games. Tetris 99 is going to be no exception. They actually launched the game as of yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, and it's mainly a one versus everyone else trying to be the first one to complete Tetris before your other opponents complete. How they term it is players can attack each other with what they call garbage that pushes you closer to the top of the screen and out of the game. You rack up KO badges for each opponent you knock out, and Nintendo promises there will be online events soon. So this is kind of that tie-in of what we know or what we're used to as being the infamous. It will implement into esports, which I don't have a link for it, but I'll go ahead and talk about it now. Esports, it's been talked about anyway, but it's projected to possibly hit the billions this year, which is no surprise. I know it's only February, but I mean, Tetris has always been like that big game that stands out to others. So having it at a tournament is no surprise. And they already do classic Nintendo or classic Tetris events, Tetris and Dr. Mario events, actually, where you pretty much have the retro Nintendo controller on the original Nintendo playing Tetris or playing Dr. Mario. I'm not sure if they play Dr. Mario past level 20, but I know they will play Tetris past the traditional level 10, which I didn't even know that feature existed until I saw tournaments played where they would start at like level 17 or level 18. The Tetris 99 is a new game that's coming. It's out now on Nintendo Switch. So if you have a Switch, go ahead and check it out. It should be a fun game. Before I get into asses of the week, because I initially was expected to have one, but one turned into three. Music-wise, there hasn't really been a lot of new music. I did listen to Ariana Grande's new album, pretty good album. Lo-fi playlists have been updating for me personally, and I've kind of been relaxing on my podcast listening, which is nothing unusual. So I've talked about it on numerous shows, and I'm working better or working harder on that to listen to more podcasts, because there are a lot of podcasters who do high quality content, to say the least, and that's just kind of where I'm at with that. Ass number one, pause, is there was a manhunt that was launched. Now, before I even do these asses of the week, because this story, a friend of mine lives in Cali, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about this story first. There was a police chase that occurred in like Los Angeles, California area, and my friend, had it on her page, and I saw it, and basically they showed the chase. I mean, the chase was going through a couple of parts of the city, surrounding county, stuff like that. Well, the chase got interesting because it ended with the person driving into an apartment complex, somehow getting through the complex, and when the gate closed, they were just in there, and there wasn't really much that they could give further than that. So it's kind of a weird ass of the week, only because there's like unknown information of, does the person live there? Did they do anything once they got there? They, were able to kind of process the plates on the car. So all that information is being investigated. My friend in Cali even mentioned that police chases happen frequently and often. So I guess it's just a normal business as usual type of ordeal. But yeah, that was kind of like the main hit for that story. Story number one starts in Columbus, Ohio, with Jeremy Davis. There was a manhunt for a suspect who had stole a police cruiser moments after being revived from an apparent overdose.
What? I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
I actually am. I didn't mean an outburst. But that's just wild. He like revived from an overdose and then stole a cop car.
Oh, you want to join in now?
I never left.
I know you didn't. You was in the... I know you didn't.
I know you killed.
Let's have a moment of silence. I don't even have a mic set up to even pick up that side, so it probably heard you regardless because it'll hear somebody sneeze. So yes, someone was brought back. They had an overdose. Shut up.
Hey,
I thought. What was you about to say? I don't. It didn't hit you. You be all right.
It did hit me.
It nubbed off your side and rolled to the floor. I'm sorry. Was that valid? Yes. It ran me away. Anyway, officers administered Narcan, a nasal spray that helps to reverse opioid overdoses and successfully revive the 25-year-old. Mr. Davis was still being examined by paramedics inside an ambulance near the house where he was found on East Gate Street, located in the city's south side, when he reportedly jumped out the vehicle and into a police cruiser. The cruiser was unattended and running, as most cruisers are in most cities and states, when Mr. Davis entered it and drove away from the scene. He crashed nearly 2 miles away near East Woodrow Avenue and South Pearl Street, according to the newspaper. After crashing the cruiser, he took off from the wreck by foot because he had no other way to move, I guess, obviously, because he couldn't get to another car. I'm going to keep my analogy to myself. I'm waiting till I get to the end. The Columbus Division of Police Facebook account shared a mugshot photo of Mr. Davis, who was seen with multiple neck and face tattoos as well as facial hair. Calls to the Columbus, Ohio Police Department were not immediately returned. Officers were reviewing whether he had any outstanding arrest warrants when he ran out of the ambulance. Authorities have urged the local community to call 911 with any information about him and his whereabouts. So what city of Grand Theft Auto 5 was he in? Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Oh, I don't know, bro.
Did he have a 4-star or a 5-star?
Sound like he had a 5-star to me, bro.
Because he took the police car?
I mean, right there, that puts you at 3. What is that 5 stars now?
I'm trying to process because I want to make sure I can get it right. Because you're already in the ambulance. You jump out the ambulance. You've been revived.
That's like 1 star right there.
That's 1 star.
Get back here.
So he leaves out of the ambulance, and then if you still in a police car, it's about a 3. It's like a 3 or 4.
Because at 3 they start chasing you, like actively chasing your ass, no matter where you go. In a cop car.
But I mean, in this case, it was kind of quick because it really would have ended in him just being busted. Well, no, he wasn't even busted because he ended up being on foot.
Right. They go home and bust you in the car, right?
Yeah. We'll let him be his own special ass of the week on that one. You know, Number 2 is in Florida. Florida, I think, gets weekly asses of the week all the time on the show. This one is a funny one because it's weird and it's nasty all at once. So, Florida City Commissioner has resigned after being fined $5,000 by a state ethics commission in the wake of numerous accusations, including that she sexually harassed a former city official and licked his face. A report from the Florida Commission of Ethics dated December 7th says that Madera Beach City Commissioner Nancy Oakley was issued the fine after the commission heard witness testimony detailing Oakley's bizarre behavior. The findings particularly highlight an alleged November 2012 incident where Oakley delayed the start of an outdoor city commission meeting, committed a battery against the city manager by licking his neck and face and groping him, and cursed at and threw a punch at another city employee. Wow. What does the next say? Ling, 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 ling. Wait. Oh my gosh. We're also to add a sound to the soundboard, but I'm gonna do it next week. But anyway, the Madera.
Look at this. Look.
What's that?
That's just.
What happened? Oh, the cat? Oh God.
I'm sorry.
I'll tell you. Yeah, that's
because they can't see.
Yeah, so if y'all are or aren't Twitch fans, you need to check out Kid Boga. He's one of the funniest media folks that catch all the scammers. But anyway, that's sidetracking from the face liquor. The Madeira Beach City Commission reprimanded Oakley and accepted her resignation on Wednesday. Oakley was not seeking re-election for her position next month. Oakley's she gone. Yeah, I mean, you thought she was gonna come back and get a second one more chance. You thought
she ain't got no hookup.
She ain't. What is it gonna be a neck hookup?
Look, it's sir.
You can get that licky.
Why are you like this?
Excuse me. You said go ahead and continue the podcast.
I did.
You threw the alley.
I did throw that alley. I'm guilty.
Yeah, and this continues with other information. This is a nasty award on so many levels, and I'm not even going to try to process all of it. But she is the Board of Commissioners accepted a resignation as their values hold that no one is above the law, including liquors. You lint liquor. Our final ass of the week is in New York. Obviously, beef patties were not available, and it caused this chick to go sicko mode with a bat.
No, she didn't.
A woman who couldn't get a beef patty at a favorite New York eatery used a baseball bat in protest, but it was not just used for protest. On Saturday, police released surveillance video of the woman in action in the Bronx, smashing a restaurant's windows after learning the eatery had run out of her favorite food. Police say the woman of the back home restaurant in the Morsania neighborhood came in on the afternoon of January 15th and ordered a patty. She was told they'd run out and she got upset. Authorities say she left and came back to the Jamaican restaurant with the bat. The video shows a woman bashing in two windows. She fled and police were still searching for her on Saturday. The video shows a woman dressed in black and white jacket and matching sneakers, swinging a multicolored aluminum bat as bystanders tried to stop her before she walked away. Lies. It was an aluminum bat. You know damn well it was gone.
No, I wonder why that been there.
That's at least, let's see, did they show, because this image, I think they show a couple of images from it. Yeah, they have a couple of images on Associated Press for this incident. Shockingly, no one was injured except the wall and the windows. To the window! The back home restaurant in the Morsania neighborhood is a simple, affordable spot that offers Jamaican specialties like curry goat and oxtail, drawing people from around the city. But y'all ain't had no patties.
Bitch, how?
I mean, okay. This is what I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to end the show, because I feel like this is like a great little segue. I'm going to be serious. No, I'm being serious. Huh? Oh, this is gonna be high quality content. If you are someone you know, no. if you did something, if you go somewhere and they don't have something available, going ape shit is not gonna get you what you asked for. But in hindsight, the store, it ain't like, even if the store had up on the wall or put up there and said we don't have Jamaican, we don't have beef patties, that doesn't give you the right to go ape shit. If that's the case, every McDonald's would have a broken window for the ice cream machine not working.
No Frosties.
Oh, y'all got messed. That was a fun night with y'all with them Frosties. And no debit card machine working. We're not accepting debit. But I'm gonna say this, and this is I always like to give my little final thought, and I guess this will be my new segment. Pass a message. Yay, new thoughts. Get the fuck out. Even in doing good messages, I still gotta be an asshole. Pass a message. My message that I want to pass to everyone. I've always talked about the being reliable, just doing it, going out there and taking a chance. And everyone's heard it enough, and I know y'all tired of it. What I want to say is stop putting other people in the way of what you're meant to do. And here's why I say this. We will put, and I feel this is a perfect day to use this one, especially with it being Valentine's Day. We put people in front of ourselves who don't deserve to be first. And for some strange reason, we're upset with the results because we gave said person all of our time and our energy and we have nothing to show for it. The problem is you have a choice on how or in what manner to give your energy or your effort to other people. If you're giving it and getting your feelings about what's reciprocated, that's you not being accountable for what happened. And I think what happens is we are so pressed on trying to get results that we don't understand. Some things may not have a result we're looking for, but it could be something better after the result that we actually got. So my message is, don't go looking for shit if it ain't your time to get it. Get what you deserve. Let what comes, learn from everything, and just grow as a person. So that's the message that I'm going to pass along to everyone. As always, this is the Pass Triplet in gaming mode. I'm not sure if y'all heard him a couple times. He probably snuck a couple in, but it's cool.
You know how I do.
Nasty awards. But anyway, on that note, we're going to sign out, and that's it. Bye. Another episode is in the books. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. As I always share, if you'd like to get into podcasting, you can check out Spreaker.com. And if you're looking to invest in a microphone or if you're looking to genuinely start with recording, I use the Blue Yeti microphone, but you may prefer to do the Samson Meteor. Just know that if it's your craft and it's something that you're meant to do it and do it well. That's my main thing to tell people about 2019. Do it and be reliable. Y'all take it easy.